Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. As usual, life can be a little bit miserable, life can be a little bit dark, so we are here to bring you as much light and as much joy as we possibly can. As usual, I'm Bradley, and joining me this week is the Dempsey to my mate piece. It's Stu, via the magic of editing. How are you, Stu?
Very sad to be recording all alone.
So, yeah, we are recording separately this week. Life gets in the way, unfortunately. The lesser known quote from Dr. Ian Malcolm: "Life gets in the way." Anyway, so straight to it, really. Bit of a roundup week from me, as my eyes continue to get better. Slowly started to catch up on some of the games I've been playing over the past few weeks. So this could be just quick little pithy roundups of each that I can talk about. So first up is a game that is influenced by the Advance Wars series, and it's called Earth versus Mars. And what you get here is just pretty much Advance Wars with an alien invasion theme to it. You take on basically a lead of Earth's defense forces, essentially, and you've got to battle aliens from Mars and protect the Earth. There's no Starship Troopers style commentary on fascism or anything like that. It is just a typical, almost B-movie style alien invasion thing. You move through the world. You try and take plots of land to help you get better units and upgrades and basically dominate the opposition. You come together, you have your battles, and you have your fights that go there. It's fun. It's a fun game. It doesn't do anything that I would say makes it stand out. But at the same time, I don't honestly think there are enough of these games that it's like becoming oversaturated or anything like that at the moment. So I'm always happy to see more of these. What it does have, and their hook, I suppose, is that you can splice together different things and whatever to get sort of like better upgrades or powers that can sort of like really help you in the heat of battle, which is a nice little thing just to separate it out. But in all honesty, it is the same sort of game as the Advance Wars, Wargroove, that sort of thing. And I say, it's a decent one of those, and highly recommend it. Highly recommend picking it up. It can be picked up for about 12 quid, I think the game is. And whilst it is unsupported on Steam Deck, it does run. I've played it on Steam Deck fine. So, yeah, well worth picking up if you're after another Advance Wars style game. Next up is a GIGASWORD, which is a Metroidvania adventure type thing that is very much influenced by the 8-bit era. I picked this up. It's maybe even Amiga, actually, but I picked this up and I was like, I don't know what this is going to be like. It looks interesting. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's give it a go. And I was more than pleasantly surprised. So overall, it is a Metroidvania. So you've got the map you uncover, bits you can't get to that you can then get to. There's enemies to take on. All the usual trappings are there. But it's got a really interesting mechanic to it, where you've got this massive sword that you take around, the GIGASWORD. And it does heavy duty damage. It's brilliant. You hit an enemy with it, and that enemy gets obliterated. And what's interesting is when you've got the sword, you can move. You can't really jump or get up to higher areas and things like that. So you kind of have to leave your sword in places and then you get to another area and bring the sword to you. So, for example, very early on, there'll be like lifts that you can plant the sword and it'll lift the sword to the next level. You can then jump up there, pick the sword up, and carry on. But if you're carrying the sword, you can't get up to that level. And then basically, the further the game goes, the more these little puzzle elements come into it. You've got to really think about how you use the sword. And my first thought was going to be, if it's just this mechanic of you've got to place the sword to get somewhere, move the sword, pick the sword up, that it might get a bit samey. But what the game does really, really well is it has different ways of interacting with the sword, depending on how you power up and what you do and where the game takes you. It's a really interesting concept that I thoroughly enjoyed my time with, and I think it's well worth a go if you're into sort of Metroidvanias. It does something that little bit differently to others, and yeah, highly recommended this one. Again, we're going with the Steam Deck. It's not got a verification yet, but it should be, because it's just, again, out the box, works absolutely fine. And another one that comes in at 12 quid. Looks lovely, plays lovely, well worth it. Next up is what is essentially a Vampire Survivors alike, with a twist, and a really interesting twist. So, Monsters Are Coming is this one. Well, it's actually, full title is Monsters Are Coming, Rock and Raid. Basically, it's Vampire Survivors in all respects. You don't do any actions as such. You kind of walk around and like it's auto battles as you go. But instead of just being what Vampire Survivors is, of you just walk around these massive areas, you are in a corridor. And it's not just you are moving this giant unit along with you. And what you get to do, it becomes a tower defense stroke semi-city builder. So you've got this giant unit that you're moving. And then on this unit, you can put turrets and fields or houses, villages, that kind of thing. And then you can upgrade this massive unit that you're moving along with to do damage around you, give you buffs, debuffs, automatic health upgrades, all that kind of thing. And what you essentially get is you do that, and that goes down the middle of the corridor and tries to do damage to enemies while you're walking around collecting resources off to the side, trying to take out enemies that maybe be overwhelming, like your unit. And what you do is you collect things, you do damage, you can upgrade yourself, you can upgrade all your turrets, you can upgrade this, you can upgrade that, you move along. And as you get further along, it gets progressively more difficult. And there's absolutely tons of unlocks, and like Vampire Survivors, by the time you get to the end of a level, it is just an amass of colour and explosion and noises, and it's just a pure dopamine filter. You know, there's just so much going on within the game. And it's got that real slow burn. So when you first play it, it's quite slow. You lose quite quickly. You get overwhelmed. And then you unlock some bits for future runs. And you unlock new characters, new abilities, all that kind of thing. And what I think this has not over Vampire Survivors, because I went back to Vampire Survivors and that's still the absolute best of the best of the best. Sir, what you get here is, it's rather than just you walk along, here's an automatic upgrade, choose from these. You get that, but then you've got to think about placement and things like that on your moving unit, which is a really good idea, because you can overwhelm maybe one side, you can all damage the other side, but then enemies come from another side, they come from the front, they come from the back, and it's all good. But what you also get differently to Vampire Survivors is once you've got through a certain area within the level, it closes off and holds the enemies back while you can go and do a couple of little side missions that give you potential upgrades. You can heal, you can go to a shop, all loads of little bits you can sort of go, right, I need this to go forward. And so it works really, really well. And it's one of the more interesting Survivors alike. And I'm really glad to see someone trying to be different rather than just going, right, here's this game again with a different skin. They've tried to be different, and it works really, really well. This comes from Raw Fury as a publisher, so for me, that's automatically a sign of there's quality within the game. And developer Ludogram, who have seen Vampire Survivors and literally said, what if Vampire Survivors, but... And yeah, they've done a great job, and it's definitely well worth picking up. And this is a nice cheap one as well. This is, okay, it's expensive compared to Vampire Survivors, but then so's a 10p chicken sandwich. It's £7, I think it comes in around £7.50 maybe. Bargain, absolute bargain. I've already put in numerous hours. This one is absolutely verified on Steam Deck already. And do you know what? I think this, if it had come out earlier in the year, might be in some conversations for one of the breakout hits of the year. But yeah, well worth your time and investment. Next up is a game called Necesse or Necesse. Necesse, it's one of those that I look at and go, I can't pronounce it, but Necesse, which is it's a survival game. It's multiplayer and single player, and you go around, you've got this massive open world, and you've got to mine for things and upgrade. It's that kind of thing. So it's like a 2D Minecraft in many ways, but it's not quite Minecraft. It's got elements from various other survival games that you'd have played, and loads of dungeons you can go through and battle in, and it's just all about essentially starting very small and building up to being bigger and more powerful as both like your character and the world. There's some bullet fighting, like enter the gungeon maybe type stuff that goes on at places, but you've also got settlements to build and everything, and it kind of merges it all together, to which I initially thought was going to be an experience that was overwhelming and too many moving parts. And it does initially feel like that the first few, like, I'd say almost half an hour that you're playing it. But when you get it, and when it introduces everything, the systems that are all in there, and like the battle parts, the crafting parts, the survival parts, the settlement building, it all makes sense within the game. Now, I think I've barely scratched the surface so far. I still think there's loads to actually pick up of here. But I'm having a really, really good time with it. And I'm loving the journey that I'm going on. And this is an important thing. I think that every person's journey with this game will be different because there's that much to offer here. And I'm enjoying my journey with it. I like the focus. My focus is on like settlement building because I really like that. I'm not very good at the actual battles that happen and so on. I've got to learn maybe more of that and how to improve that. But yeah, it's a really, really fun game. The questing is interesting. There's some interesting quests in there. Again, I'm not a big crafting person, but it's fine. I'm not one for crafting. I'd rather just, I don't know, with that kind of thing. But that's a me thing, definitely a me thing. But yeah, really enjoyable game overall. If you're just after a bit of, it does everything game, then yeah, this is definitely for you. Steam Deck verified. Another one that comes in at around the £12 mark. Yeah, great, pick it up. Up next is a game that I'm going to have to be very, very harsh on, but I will offer some hope going forward for the development team, I hope anyway. And that is Rennsport, which is a sim racing game. And I picked this one up because I've been wanting just a new sim to play. Just maybe something I can pick up and play and try and get into. This one, at the moment, doesn't offer what I want at all. And it's beset by problems from the very get-go. So when I've been playing it, and I've tried this on Steam Deck, normal PC as well, and I've been having issues all over. So for the first part on Steam Deck, when I try and play it, it doesn't recognise controller inputs at all. You have to switch to almost like a mouse and keyboard option, and I believe that has or will be patched at the time of recording. But it's not great. Servers for a long time were down as they was doing maintenance, which meant you couldn't get into the game at one point. The online, I've tried doing online races, and the game just lots of crashes. And I don't mean driver ability. The game was loading up. I was getting into a race, it would crash. I'd be a lap into a race, it would crash. And these aren't hard crashes; these are soft crashes. So it's like, servers are available kind of stuff, or it just freeze, and then all of a sudden you're back at the menus, and it's a mess there. That's all right. Don't mind that. I'm not an online racer. Let me get in and play the AI. That's where it's all at. And again, more problems. The AI itself is not good. It doesn't race well. I've been back recently playing the original TOCA series, so touring cars and World Touring Cars, Touring Car Championship and TOCA 2 touring cars. I've been playing a lot of that, and the AI in that is fantastic. And this isn't a patch on that. In fact, it's like, I don't know, it's like the AIs just feel like they're learner drivers who have never raced before. They offer either too much challenge or not enough challenge. They're either not aggressive enough or they're too aggressive. They either take the racing line or it makes no sense. It doesn't feel like you're driving against anyone competent. Now, I know when you play online, you're going to get idiots. But you expect a certain standard from your AI. And yes, you don't want everyone just to be driving. I remember like old Gran Turismo. You don't want people just to be perfectly driving a racing line every time and you're just making your way around them. You want them to react. But this just isn't there. It needs a lot of work. Now, the hope I can give the game is that for me, the actual act of driving the cars is fun. It works really well. I do play on a controller. So there is a caveat to that. I can't use the pedal and wheels because of amputation. So if anyone wants to send me an adapted steering wheel for racing games, I'm all over that. Anyway, it's so I play on a controller, and yeah, do you know what? With certain assists on that I do need to help because you're playing on a controller, driving's absolutely fine. And my most fun I've had with the game is literally just hot lapping, just going around and just driving tracks. Just having fun, improving lap times. That works really well. So to the developers, the game is a mess. It cannot be recommended to anyone in its current state. But I honestly think work on that AI and you've got a decent single player game. This multiplayer, I don't know what you do with that because there's too many other options out there that do work and are really good that I think you might lose this audience already. But I think you can make here a very competent and decent single-player racing game if you can get the AI right. Because as I said, it's definitely a controller-accessible racer that is fun to drive. It's just not fun or even acceptable to race. So, yeah, definitely not recommended. The Rennsport is an absolute mess at the moment, unfortunately. But, I still think the developers could have pulled a No Man's Sky with this and bring it back from the ashes. And finally, from me this week, I told you it's a busy one, Tavern Keeper, which is essentially a management, resource management, tycoon management game where you are in this magical elven type world where I suppose our people are doing their quest and you manage the tavern they go to, and you've basically got to build essentially a medieval fantasy pub for people to go into and enjoy, be it maybe villains or heroes and things like that. And you need to make sure you cater everyone. So you need good booze, you need good food, you need good settings, scenery. You need things for them to be able to do. So there's darts, there's games, there's singing, there's dancing. There's quest boards for them. And you start off small. They're coming in from the outside. It's like, I just want a drink. You've got to try and earn the money. So you have to pay out to refill your barrels and refill your food stocks. And all that goes into it. You wait for maybe deliveries where you can put orders in. And you've got to, as running the tavern, you've got to balance spending and making sure you're earning. You can't just manage, like, let things stay through. You can't go, oh, look, I've got this now, I'm just going to let it run. And because people get bored and they want improvements and want new stuff. And again, you've got to cater for different types of people. And it's just really, really fun. Like, you can micromanage the details in this game right down. You can get right into sort of like how you place the tables and what the decor is like in each little section. And you can almost theme your pub in different areas, and it works really, really well. And it's one of those games that I went into going, it's going to be just a meme style game. I thought it's like going to be quirky and it's going to lose something after a bit. And then the next thing I knew, I was 8 to 10 hours deep. I was like, where did that go? Where on earth did that go? This game's still in early access as well. And there's just like more to come that they've promised. You know, there's going to be workshop support, and I can't wait for that. And whilst it is somewhat mission based at the moment, there's going to be like a sandbox mode that comes at some point. So you can just do your thing, which is really, really good. And it's got a narration to it as well, which adds a load of character. The ambience in the tavern that you create is just, it's just, there's something cozy about being in there. And more I play it, the more I'm just loving it. I just want to be in this world. You feel like you are, in many ways, like you are just from the outside and listening in to all these adventures that are going on, but without it forcibly going, this is the adventure this character's on. You can just get the idea of this bustling world outside of your tavern, and you're just part of it, and you're where everyone just comes just to relax, just, you know, just down tools for a bit and have a bit of fun. And it's, a wonderful game. Absolutely wonderful. Playing perfectly on the Steam Deck so far for me. I'm not having issues with mouse and keyboard. A couple of little tweaks. I think the developers have said there is going to be some work to optimize it for Steam Deck at some point, but it's not there at the moment. But, you know, the fact they are aware of this. So, yeah. The plans are there. It does need a little bit of tweaking, but once you do that and you get to your comfort, and there'll be community profiles at some point. The only sticking issue for some might be the price at just short of £25. But if you're into builders and resource management and things like that, then it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. Pleasantly surprised by how good this one was. And that's it from me. I'll say a bit of a roundup this week. Hopefully back to normal next week. But yeah, I will head back over to Stu. So from me, love you, goodbye.
Oh yes, it's me again, your man Trouble. And yeah, thanks to Brad for all of his stuff. Unfortunate that we couldn't record this week. Always a pleasure to record together. Always a disappointment when we can't, especially for you, the listening audience. Anyway, I've only got one this week, but it's an absolute corker, and that is R-Type Delta HD Boosted. Now, this is a remaster of the 1999 game that came out on the PlayStation and remains to this day one of my favourite PlayStation games of all time, but not just that, one of my favourite games of all time. Now, That means that in this year of our Lord 2025, or, non-denominational year, if you don't want to go into the whole religion side of marking chronology, that means that 2 games in my top 10 have had sequels or remasters. I think only 2, but 2 itself is pretty fantastic. Hold up, sorry. No, there's actually 4 games from my top 10 that have had sequels this year. So in total, that's Shinobi, that's R-Type Delta, Lumens, and Death Stranding. And my favourite type of game is either horizontal shooter or scrolling beat 'em up, belt scroller, whatever you want to call them. And I sort of seesaw between which are my favourite. Obviously, at the moment, it's horizontal shoot 'em up because I'm playing this. But yeah, they've always been my favourite genres. And the R-Type series has always been my favourite horizontal shooter. And R-Type Delta has always been my favourite of the R-Type series. So to say that it's one of my favourite games is an understatement. It's like right up there. Now, whether it's the best horizontal shooter ever made or not, I'd have a good argument with people that it is. And I normally don't bother arguing. I'm normally like, yeah, you like this, I like that. Let's just agree to disagree, get along. However, there is so much to love about this game from a perspective of a horror fan. I can barely know where to begin, but I'll give it a quick go. So what's so brilliant about this game is it takes everything that R-Type does well and it enhances on all of it whilst keeping all of the core tenets of the gameplay from the 2D era, expanding them all, but without stepping on anything that's come before, only enhancing it. It feels like R-Type, but it also feels significantly more evolved. And one of the ways that it does that is by the direction. So apparently they had significant trouble translating it from a 2D game into a 3D one. Now, it remains just scrolling from side to side. And if you've played this or, the other 3D games, particularly the R-Type Final games, you'll know that they kind of shift perspective and sometimes you're slightly going into the screen or slightly away from it, slightly underside shot or top-down shot. Just really perspective changes. And what it does in this game, in Delta, is it uses that to emphasize danger, to show you what's coming next, and to also constantly remind you that enemies and threats, so both attackers and physical objects, can come from any direction. Well, most directions. They don't come from your perspective into the screen. Well, that's the only one that isn't used. So it uses those really, really well. The perfect example is the Stage 3 the Stage 3 beginning, which is an entire boss level, like is classic in R-Type, where there's a huge walking, like an AT-AT, like an AT-AT style thing coming at you, and it begins with a short cinematic in real time of this thing walking behind you, stalking your ship and firing a massive laser. Simultaneously gives you that adrenaline rush of, oh my god, this gigantic thing's up my ass, as the actress said to the bishop, and giving you this visual thrill of what that looks like, at the same time instructing you on what's going to be happening. It's a masterful piece of direction, and it continues in that vein throughout the game. So there are very few that don't play with the idea of perspective, what's coming from where. Every angle of the screen is used. You've got to memorize this game. There's room within the gameplay for you to improvise and to use your reaction skills to get past obstacles and to get past certain areas and certain enemies. But you do also need to memorize it because they come from everywhere. And they're a mix of organic with organic behaviours. They're cyborg creatures. There are robotic creatures. There are physical barriers, physical peril throughout, environmental factors. It's done so stunningly well. I'd love to pick out lots of levels for you just to tell you what happens in them, but that would be spoiling it. But suffice to say that it's just incredibly atmospheric with this great retro aesthetic of simple polygon shapes with some really nice bitmapped work on them that add a lot of detail. And this looks great in the original. So the new game, it's not new, it's a remaster. What it brings to the table is basically that it's in HD. So it's got a really decent resolution. Everything looks crisp and sharp and readable. Very impressive. It would be very easy to mess this up. They haven't. It looks great. It's still got the texture warping that you get on PS1 games, so it still feels like the PS1. It also suggests to me that this is an emulation rather than any kind of significant reworking of the game engine itself. So it's just, I think they've probably just got an emulator running, whether that's, a license-free one that they're just using or whether they built one themselves. I would guess they're probably just an unlicensed version that they're using legally, And, fair play to them. It works very, very well. It looks great. I did a quick comparison with DuckStation, and although I didn't mess with the settings too much, it does look very similar, but probably crisper on the official product. So should you buy it? Well, it does have a few things that are a little bit head-scratchy that a collector or somebody who, they want a significant improvement over either the original or somebody who, just playing it through an emulator would particularly desire. And that is that it's fairly bare bones. It's got an arrange mode for the music, which is welcomed. I don't think that the arranged stuff is as good as the original stuff, but it's good. And it's good for, a bit of variety. There's a couple of screen options, although they don't change things significantly. It's more like stretching the screen and things like that. It doesn't add a great deal to it. All of the original options are still in there, of course. But yeah, it doesn't add a great deal. And it's by Clear River, and they've done a great work with the Tower Plan collection. I played like Hellfire, Batsagun. So City Connection, who are the publishers and co-developers, taken over the IP from... they're taking over the Tower Plan IP in Jaleco, I don't know how you pronounce it. They've taken those over and they've done some really good stuff with that. And that makes it even more surprising that there's things missing, enhancements like sort of rewind options, save states, unlimited credits, some marquees, game history, CRT filters. The only kind of real big addition in terms of on top of it is there's a practice mode where you can practice levels that you've already accessed in the game. But yeah, none of those things that I mentioned, or even like a boss rush mode, or it may be unlockable, but I haven't seen it, or a boss practice mode, or any other sort of, arrange modes of gameplay. And that seems, considering that a lot of that stuff you can get in the emulator, if you play DuckStation or EPSXE, use those emulators, those things are sort of baked in. The things about rewind, save states, or that kind of thing, filters. That sort of stuff's built in. So to not bring it forward in a product that you're paying a considerable amount of money for, that seems a little bit bare bones to me. I would expect this thing to have been torn apart and put back together with a load of extra stuff embedded into its code so that it really justifies its value. I don't feel it's quite done that. That said, the game itself is just so good. It expands on a lot of the stuff that was in the previous game, R-Type 3, the Third Lightning, that was a SNES exclusive. It takes those things, so like different force types. In this case, you have different ships, and they all have different force types, so the way that they play is completely uniquely different from one another. And it builds on the sort of the Bydo Dose, which just, sounds like the clap, I'm afraid. But yeah, it builds on, powering up your Force device with contact with the aliens, which allows you to release a mega weapon, which is a great addition. All of those things, and the design, colourful and easy to read, and blending the mechanical and the organic beautifully together, as well as the 2D games did, if not better. It's just such a beautifully good game. It's one of the best arcade style games that's ever been made, in my opinion, and you just can't go wrong with buying it. And buying it, of course, rather than emulating it, means that you're investing in more of this type of thing appearing in the future. I'd love to see, it's very unlikely because it was on a Nintendo platform, but I'd love to see like a remaster or preferably a remake of R-Type 3, because it was stuck on one console and, probably didn't have that huge an audience. I'd love to see that remade or remastered, particularly remade, because it had a lot of technical issues on the SNES. Still a brilliant game though, really unusual. I'd love to see that come back. So yeah, if you're interested in it, buy it. If you are a shooter fan, it's an absolute must-have. An absolute must-have. It probably won't make my top 10 of the year, just simply because it is essentially a game that I've been playing for 25 years already, and not significantly changed. But that will never take its slot out of my personal top 10 of all time, which is the greatest accolade that I can give it. It's absolutely amazing. It's very, very difficult, but it rewards patience, learning, educating yourself with the mechanics. It's so deep for what is such a superficially simplistic style of game. There are so many variables that you will see and that you can use to your advantage, and that every weapon, every ability has an advantage and a disadvantage to it. It's perfectly pitched, perfectly balanced. It's just an almost perfect game, in my opinion, and I will continue to sing its praise for the rest of my life. Okay, we're going to leave it there. So, as usual, follow us on all the socials. Make sure you're checking out our content on the website. Join us on Discord if you wish to chat. And until next time, stay safe and stay sane.